Alright, this is number 3 on your quiz, and I know when you were setting up your paper you skipped this problem. So now I want you to go back to number 3 so that we can set up this problem together. Fabian will drive 217 miles to his grandmother's house. He drove 46 miles, then stopped for gas. He drove the same distance again, then stopped for lunch. Which equation can be used to find G, the distance Fabian still has to drive to reach his grandmother's house? So when I look at my answer choices, I see that we are going to be solving for G, the distance to grandmother's house. And so what I want to do first is just start at the very top and take one sentence at a time. So on my paper, if I had my paper here and I go back to number 3, let's go ahead and start with our diagram. So it says Fabian will drive 217 miles to his grandmother's house. So reading just this part, I'm going to make a unit bar. I'm going to label this 217. That's going to represent the distance to grandmother's house. When I take the next statement, it says he drove 46 miles and then stopped for gas. So from here, he took apart, taking a portion, 46 miles, and that is going to be for the gas. If I take the next statement, it says he drove the same distance, so we're going to drive 46 more miles, and then he stopped for lunch. So I'm going to go ahead and partition this again, call this 46, and I'm going to label that lunch. Which equation can be used to find G, the distance Fabian still has to drive to reach grandmother's house? So this piece right here, the piece that we're looking for, is going to be the remaining amount, G. So when I look at these two, I see that we have two things that are the same. So sometimes I might be thinking to myself, well, if I started with 217 and I drove some and got gas, so I'm driving away, so that's going to be minus 46. Then I drive another 46 miles and I stop and get gas. The remaining amount will be what is left over. That's one way I could think about solving this problem. But when I look over here, I don't see that as an example, so I have to rethink, what else could I do? Well, one thing I might want to think about doing is, since these are the same numbers, I might want to think about doing this twice and subtracting one time. So I could start with my 217, and that's my total, so I'm going to subtract from that total. And instead of subtracting 46 twice, I might think about having 46 times 2, and we're going to be grouping that together first and subtract one time to get our gas. So maybe I might see something that looks very similar. So look at your answer choices carefully and see if you can find something that matches our thinking.